What happened in the 60s changed the landscape of things to come. It changed the fabric of family life, where we lost our innocence and our conscious mind absorbed everything in between.
I am a child of the 60s. I grew up in the 60s. And I want to share that experience with my audience, my children, my grandchildren. I want them to experience the 60s through my eyes. And the first episode is titled Yesterday, 1960 through 1964.
Do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation.
Yesterday is a documentary trilogy based on the 1960s Cultural Revolution. And we examine this period through the prism of music and the synergy that music plays with civil rights, civil liberties, feminism, war and peace in America, and how they evolve. In this period, there were four very influential voices. JFK, our young president, our prince; Martin Luther King, our conscience; the Beatles, our inspiration; and Bob Dylan was our prophet. In 1961, JFK, in his inaugural speech, challenges America.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
At the same time, the beginning of Vietnam, JFK sends 400 troops to Vietnam as advisors. This is the beginning. In 1962, after 2 deaths and hundreds of injuries, James Meredith is admitted the first black student to the University of Mississippi under federal guard. And the Crystals release, He's a Rebel. Marilyn Monroe, a movie star, dies of a massive overdose of sleeping pills. And on August 16, 1962, Ringo Starr joins the band, and the Beatles are complete. To most, the early 60s are just a carryover of the conservative 50s. But in January of 1963, that all changes. It's interesting, there are 2 channels on the BBC television in the UK. And on one channel, the Beatles are performing. And at the very same time, on the only other channel, Bob Dylan is performing. And neither of them would know in less than a year's time that they would become so iconic, that they would inspire a revolution and be the voice of a generation.
As a child of the 60s, we watched in awe on The Ed Sullivan Show the night the Beatles first performed.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles!
It changed my life forever and thousands of baby boomers as well.
On November 22nd, in 1963, we saw our president, our prince, John Kennedy, be assassinated.
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
On that very same day, November 22nd, 1963, the Beatles release With the Beatles. And the very next day, on November 23rd, Bob Dylan sings for the first time, The Times They Are A-Changing, a symbol of what the 60s would be. On February 7th in 1964, the Beatles landed in America, and it was the perfect storm. America was grieving for our prince, JFK. We needed a reason to feel good. We had the largest teenage population in American history. The Beatles come, and they gave us that reason to feel good. Okay, so you get the idea. We want to tell the story of the 1960s Cultural Revolution. We want to tell it truthfully and uncensored, the naked truth. And we know we can't do that if we have to answer to sponsors or to corporations. So that's why we're here on Indiegogo. We need your support to help us to fund Yesterday, the trilogy. Right now we're looking to fund the first episode, titled Yesterday, 1960 through 1964. Theodore Roosevelt said, "To educate a man in mind and not in morals is to educate a menace to society." And in 1960, to some degree, we did that. So please sign on to Indiegogo.com and support yesterday, 1960, 1964. We can't do this project without your help.
Please log on to the link on the screen and find out how you can help. Thank you.